Get ready for back to school with H&M. From mix and match basics to new denim styles, find their favorites for in and out of the classroom at your nearest H&M and on hm.com.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du Norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
It's fun all the way through, even though you're kind of watching it through your fingers as well. So I think it's quite an engaging movie. And even the little flat spots don't really matter that much because you suspect that something either hilarious or awful or both is coming around the corner. It's usually true.
People say, oh, you don't know what this film is. You think, well, no, I think I do. Like, I think I know what this film is from what I've seen. But you really don't unless you've seen it. So I think, you just like, share the love around.
I had a lot of fun with this. It's creepy, it's gory, really surprising, I think, as well.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher podcast. Today I'm joined by Helen.
Hi.
Kat.
Hello.
And Darren.
Hello.
And we are going to be talking about Barbarian. Thank you as always to the mighty people for this mighty tune that you listen to right now. And thanks to Ben from Rocket Audio for editing this podcast. Please do remember to head over to Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Pocket Casts, especially Pocket Casts, they're the best. And give us a 5-star rating and a glowing review. Join in the conversation with us on Twitter. No, if you want to get to Twitter, you can do a guess. We're never there. At Flixwatcher Pod and all the other social media platforms, we are at Flixwatcher, except maybe TikTok, because we haven't really worked out what we're doing with that yet.
Hello film fans, welcome to Flixwatcher podcast. Our guests today are Kat and Darren. Over to you please, Darren, to say hello to our listeners and tell them a little bit more about who you are and what you do, please.
Hello everybody, I'm Darren Gaskell. I write horror film reviews for Love Horror and Warped Perspective. I'm also one half of the HD Movie Podcast. It's a generic film podcast. We don't just cover horror, it's all sorts of films. And I'm one half of the co-hosting team with Hayley Alice Roberts, who I also met from a horror film festival. I seem to meet a lot of people at horror film festivals. That isn't actually my day job. I have a very, very hard to explain IT day job. So this is what I do when I'm not fixing test analyzers.
Look, just turn it off and on again. That's the main thing. That's day one, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Day one and your last day. Who are you in my bottom right?
Yeah, my name is Kat Hughes. I am a film critic, essayist and podcaster. Primarily write for The Hollywood News, where I'm deputy editor, but I also have bylines in Dread Central and a multitude of other places. I've done some stuff for Arrow releases and Second Sight, and I have 3 podcasts because why not? I have a Lost Rewatch podcast called All of the Lost. I have an Interview the Vampire, that's a TV show, Interview the Vampire deep dive with my podcast wife Naomi called Savage Garden. And then the one that started it all was Movies with Mummy, which my then 4-year-old, now 6-year-old, insisted that we do. So that's a micro podcast where we talk about whatever she wants. I disassociate for like 10 minutes and talk to her toys, who she's doing the voices for. So yeah, I have horror very much in the writing world, and then also just lots of kids stuff and TV in the podcast world.
Your backdrop is quite impressive. The first thing I saw is the massive Critters, I guess, DVD box set or VHS box set.
It's the Arrow Blu-ray box set. The art is really pretty, and I tend to leave stuff sort of facing out until I've like rewatched it, and then it goes into the shelving. Except when I went to put this into the shelving and I had to like do a move around, there was a spider living where it needed to go, so it just stays there now because I'm not going to bother it.
Well, it's striking. Critters scared the shit out of me in the 80s. When I shouldn't have been watching it. That and RoboCop. Maybe they were quite cool, my parents, in the 80s, but also, no.
Different time.
So you guys are both into horror. Explain this.
That's a very broad-ranging question.
Very pointed question, wasn't it? Yeah.
Why not, Kobe? Why not?
Explain yourself, Gaskell. Why are you into horror? Yeah, it's kind of basically, I think it's my mum's fault. My mum let me stay up and watch Hammer horror movies when I was quite young, and never really got out of the genre. Now I'm writing about them as well as watching them.
Does Hammer horror seem a bit quaint in comparison to, or potentially the film we're going to talk about today, for example?
Yes, it is. I think that they've still got valid things to say, and I still love a good Hammer horror film, but I think time has marched on in terms of horror. These two films, well, Barbarian, I mean, if you set Barbarian aside as a Hammer horror film, you just think they're night and day, because Hammer horror is kind of, even though there's some fairly nasty things going on, they're all kind of pushed to the back, and it's more about suggestion and atmosphere, whereas Barbarian, not really the same thing.
Yeah. It was my mum too. It's all her mum's fault. She was a young mum, a single mum in the 80s. So the early couple of years of the 80s, she was watching all the video nasties. And then I came along in the mid 80s, and she would stay up watching films. And if I kind of got out of bed and couldn't sleep, she'd let me sit on the sofa and watch until maybe I shouldn't be. So I remember watching Ghoulies when I was really young, and Dolls and Gremlins when I was like 3, which now, it doesn't seem that bad, but I think it was originally like an 18 or a 15 at least. So it was still pretty intense. And yeah, it just kind of grew from there. I was always around. I mean, I watched Aliens and Alien 3 because there was only 3 films back then when I was 7. So it was, yeah.
That's a bit much. I remember watching Gremlins as a kid and I found it scary. Was that an 18? Could that have been an 18 then? That seems too...
It was definitely a 15.
Yeah, it's definitely a 15. I think now it's a 12.
It is. Yeah. It's a 12 now.
Yeah.
How times change.
Exactly.
You're a bit of a horror fan, aren't you, Helen?
I am, yes. This case, it was my dad who used to enjoy watching horror films. He also used to subscribe to Fangoria. So every month that popped through the letterbox, and it was a case of being half terrified and half interested in having a flick through of all the gory delights in that. So that definitely had an influence on me. The cover I remember the most was a cover from Total Recall with the eyes popping out. That was a fond memory and nightmares, and also watching that probably far too young as well.
The thing about horror as a genre is quite interesting because there's very few other genres that have like dedicated magazines and festivals. There's not like a comedy film festival, is there? Or action film festival, but there's loads of horror festivals. It's like, and there's multitudes of genres within horror, quote unquote. The fact that you guys write for horror specific publications is, testament to that. So yeah, well, today we're here talking about a recent, well, we'll decide if it's a classic horror, in Barbarian. Kat, this is your choice. Can you tell us, first of all, why you chose it? And then second of all, I'll give you 60 seconds in which you have to give us the synopsis.
Okay, so I think I chose this one. Originally, I was drawn to John Wick 4, but that's like 3 hours long. And I thought I can't, on my first appearance on a podcast, make everybody sit through a 3-hour film.
We've had longer.
Yeah, but still, it's not the way to ingratiate yourself and getting an invite back, is it? But I like myself a bit of Bill Skarsgård. John Wick 4's got Bill Skarsgård. Oh, Barbarian also has him in. So yeah, that was kind of it. And Weapons has been released this year, so I thought it was kind of timely to have a revisit with it as well.
And Weapons being the director from this film's next film, which is out in cinemas as we record this.
Yeah, that's the one.
Awesome. And okay, so your timer, 60-second timer, starts right now.
So in Barbarian, Tess is on her way to a job interview with a documentary filmmaker. She wants to get there early to be fresh, so she books into an Airbnb. But when she arrives, there is a man called Keith who is already there. It seems they've double booked the Airbnb. What do? All the hotels are fully booked, so she decides, hey, why not stay with this random man I've just met? And then turns out that Keith might not be the scariest thing living in the house.
Lovely. 30 seconds.
Very nice.
Let's go to yourself. I think that I'm the only person who hasn't seen this before. Darren, had you seen this before?
I had seen this before. It was the secret film at Celluloid Screams Horror Festival in 2022.
Did it come out that long ago?
Yeah, it was
Wow.
2022, yeah. Because of the various distribution links to it, it's kind of a Disney film as well.
Well, Mickey Mouse is in the basement.
So yeah, that's how I first saw it. And yeah, I was blown away, to be perfectly honest, when I first saw it at Celluloid. It was everything I'd hoped it would be and a lot of things that I didn't expect.
What didn't you expect?
The lurch in the plot about halfway through, because I was just thinking, yeah, it might be kind of a home invasion thing. It might be kind of a torture porn thing. I'm not really sure where this is going. And then about 45, 50 minutes in, I was thinking, what the hell is going on now? I've no idea where this is going. And then all of a sudden it cuts to something completely different. And I was thinking, I'm totally lost now. I've no idea what's happening.
Yeah, there's a few about turns in places. Helen, had you seen this before?
I had, yeah. Sadly, I missed it at the cinema, which I don't know why, but I would have loved to have seen it in the cinema. I caught it when it came to streaming. And yeah, I mean, several points in the film, several characters say, what the fuck? And like watching it, you're just like, what is going on? So yeah, I think possibly a similar experience in that you go in kind of expecting one film and then you get something completely different. And then it just gets even weirder and weirder and weirder. And Justin Long's in it as well. And it's like, he pops up and I was like, this is such a weird film. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. It's creepy, it's gory, and yeah, really, really surprising, I think, as well.
Is that gory, Kat? I was surprised it's an 18.
I mean, it has, like, Bill Skarsgård getting his head smashed in. I think that's probably what's eggs it over into that.
Yeah.
And just that all of the implied, like, violence and stuff that Richard Brake's character's been up to, I think that in terms of content and tone, that kind of pushes it up into the 18 category.
Yeah, and gouging the eyes out, like, that normally does it.
Which character is Richard Brake? The chap in the middle?
Yeah, he's the guy who you see in the 80s collecting all the baby stuff and stealing the pregnant lady. And then he's the guy who is in the basement at the end when Justin Long walks in and there's all the...
Oh, is that him?
All the creepy VHS tapes with the ladies' names on. Yeah, that's good old creepy Richard Brake.
I'm sure he's lovely in real life, but he's not.
He is. I've interviewed him a lot. He is lovely, but God, can he play a really good psychopath.
I remember this coming out. I can't believe it was that long ago. I really can't believe it was that long ago. But I remember all the kind of stories where, well, pretty much you succinctly put it in the start in the synopsis, Kat, in that two people, they double booked in an Airbnb. This is a horror film. But everyone said, it's not what you think. Go watch it. I was like, well, pretty sure I know where it's going to be. They said something about a basement, but I thought, okay, well, so it's his house, it's his basement, fine. But yeah, it's just, I was thinking it's an 18 more for, once she goes into the basement, it's really kind of a sustained, like, threat from then on, isn't it? Well, until you get out, you get a bit of a respite, quote unquote, when you first see Justin Long's character, before then he goes into the basement, and then you see Richard Brake's character, before then he goes into the room. But outside of those kind of dalliances, it's just there's like a lot of pressure, like building up, and it's just generally what the fuck. I thought it was a great film. The thing I often take offense with horror films is when people are doing stupid things, like, why would you go down there? So Bill Skarsgård's character in this, I was still like, really, mate? Why'd you open the door? Why'd you go down those stairs when she's freaked out? But apart from that, if I can move that from the side, I'm like, okay, everything else makes logical sense, because she went down into the basement because she needed toilet paper, got locked in,
pulled on a mystery string.
Yeah, pull on a mystery string. Why? I mean, if you're there already, you might as well pull on a mystery string. Saw something there which is super weird, get freaked out, and then you get out, and rightly she said, I'm not going to go back in there. Then she went back in there to try and save him because he was screaming, and that's the point. Normally you'd think, okay, so he's lured her in because he's a killer. Oh no, but he's not the killer. Well done. Cut to Justin Long.
Yeah, I like the fact that Justin Long goes down to the basement because he's trying to eke out as many features of the house as he possibly can so that it will be worth
so well done.
And he's got the tape measure and stuff. And I think that's a really great bit of the movie, because after all of this awful stuff, and you're very, very tense, it's a massive bit of levity, because something awful is probably going to happen to him while he's got this tape measure. But it's the whole idea that it's like, right, I can make some more money off this house, and he's got the tape measure. And I was killing myself laughing in the cinema at the same time, but also thinking, yeah, at some point something really dreadful is going to happen as well at the end of all this.
And deservedly so. I mean, he is probably up there as number 2 as the worst person in this.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. The fact that at the start you're given some information about him where you think, yeah, he's not a very good guy, and then there's a slight hint that he might be a better guy than that, but by then it's like, no, he's reverted to type. He's an absolute scumbag.
Yeah.
just a massive weasel throughout, isn't it? He has that moment where he's like, oh no, I should help this woman that's like risked her life to come back and save me. And then it's just a bit too hard for him. And he's like, actually, no, like, you do this, I'm out of here. So yeah, but just that Justin Long, who's I think for a lot of people is better known for his comedy work, just seeing him pop up after you've had that sustained threat for 45 minutes, because the whole Tess Keith interplay is great. He is giving so many red flags, and prior to this, Bill Skarsgård has primarily done horror and villain roles, so the audience is going in expecting, well, he's Pennywise, so he's obviously going to be a rogue and he's going to do something, and you've had all this sustained threat, and then there's that reveal just before he does, no, he's a good guy actually, like, oh, we got him all wrong, and then cut to black, and then Justin Long, and you're like, what, why is he here, like Mr. Funny McFunny? And he does, I think Zach Cregger does a really good job at weaving in the horror and the humor. Just every time AJ like extends the tape measure a little bit more, and he's like, yes, a bit more, and he finds like another room, another corridor. It's so well done at like bringing that humor in when you've had that kind of sustained threat for no good reason, really, in that first 45 minutes.
I also love how anti-Airbnb this film is.
Oh God, yes.
It kind of feels like it's been coming, the time has been coming, and this is very much like, this is totally something Airbnb would do. And that is totally something an Airbnb owner would do as well. Look to maximise their storage space down below, not thinking it's a sex prison or anything like that, just looking at it for real estate.
Yeah, because he wasn't fazed by it, was it, when he went into measure? It was just like, oh, there's a manky bed with a
video camera.
Yeah. There's a bloody handprint on the wall. It's like, that's fine.
That room is grim.
I mean, let's go back to that initial setup, because that in itself, like we said, it could be someone can make that into a horror film, short or long, in itself. And I think that's already a decent premise. So it's interesting how, what I quite like in films is when there's a setup which is like, it's got a good direction, and then it's like, oh, no, there's another layer beneath that. Oh, no, there's another layer beneath that, or like a really good plan's been set out and the plan fails at the last hurdle, and then have to like pivot really quickly and then do something else amazing. So I think that's where a lot of the interest in this film comes from me. The scary thing in the cave at the end is like, just a bit like, really? Definitely scary, but it's the about faces that were like, okay, this is really no idea where this is going kind of scenario. So yeah, what would you guys do if you turned up and someone was in the Airbnb that you already booked?
I mean, if it was Bill Skarsgård, I would be fine. I would be, hello, yes. Let's crack open that wine, Keith. Yes. But it's just one thing I remember out of, I think it was the Fright Fest screening, there was some people who were, a bit confused about why Tess kind of looks at his driver's license. And obviously that is because she is a woman alone with a man who she doesn't know. She takes a picture of his ID. If something happens to her and somebody goes to her phone, they can see him. Tess is really smart. She doesn't drink that drink. She doesn't drink the tea that she doesn't see him make. But that driver's license, you can understand why she's a bit nervous, because the driver's license lists Keith as having blue eyes when Bill Skarsgård has green eyes, and it lists him as being 5'10" when he's 6'4".
Oh, okay.
So you can kind of, because obviously they've made that for the film. I don't understand why they've obviously deliberately made it with the wrong information about him. So I think you are supposed to be a bit like, really? Because I thought his eyes were green. So I think it's really, really interesting how they have worked at making Keith this bad guy.
I would never have noticed his eye colour change difference.
I think Kat would have.
I have met him, so I have seen them in person. It was the height that stood out to me. It's like 5'10". He's not 5'10". The Skarsgårds are all like Viking men, aren't they? They're all like 8 foot.
What's the main Skarsgård called?
Stellan is the
Stellan, yeah.
Patriarch.
He's not that
daddy.
tall, is he? It doesn't come across that tall, but
I think he's 6'2".
Oh, really?
He is tall, yeah.
Who am I thinking? Well, because Good Will Hunt.
I know what you mean, though. He does give away sort of like shorter man energy, but yeah, he's quite tall.
Because in, I guess, Good Will Hunting, he doesn't seem that big. In the Avengers films, he doesn't. I guess he's next to Thor and stuff like that, isn't he? So it doesn't naturally. But then, like, Bill Skarsgård does look lanky and tall, definitely. And then you got all the other ones. Is there anything else you want to say before we head to the scores, guys?
I was just going to mention his way of putting on the duvet. It's just really, really funny. Like, it's just one of those like moments in horror films with the light relief. And yeah, I just thought it was really funny.
That is pretty much how I used to do it as a kid.
Is it the most effective way?
I don't think so. No, the most effective way is now I've got arms that are long enough to go like take it through. But yeah, I used to like get inside it properly and then climb out and try and like hate it. I used to hate putting the sheets on.
But again, that's kind of slightly odd because he's almost like this ghost figure and he's waving it about in front of her. You're thinking, this is slightly weird. And you're just waiting for him to sort of pounce on her at some point, and it never does. And all through the first half of the movie, it's putting all these red flags in the way. At one point, I think he even says, this must be a load of red flags for you. And I'm thinking, yeah, you're right, it is a load of red flags. So it's just leading you down this path where you think at some point something bad is going to happen and it's going to be involving Keith. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, Keith's all right. Keith's just a little bit awkward. He's a nice guy. It's something else that you need to be worried about.
The only thing that I would sort of add to the discussion would be that having seen Weapons, this is a really good proto-Weapons in terms of story structure. That film has a multi-character narrative. It's broken down a bit more in depth in Weapons, but here we've got that. We don't have any name cards that come up, but you start with Tess, and then you're with AJ, and then you're with Richard Brake's character, and then suddenly you're back with Tess again. And it has that balancing of what the fuck and horror and humor. So I think if you sort of watch this and then Weapons side by side, you can tell 100% that this is the same filmmaker that's made both of these films.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think if anything, the swings between humor and horror are actually slightly more extreme in Weapons, because it really does go for it in places. Without spoiling anything, there were points in Weapons where I was sinking into my seat because I was thinking, I am not having a good time here. I am genuinely scared. And then there were other points where I was falling about laughing.
I'm looking forward to hopefully this weekend as we record. Last thing before we get to the scores then, when Tess, just before the interview started with Tess, she was looking back at that driving license again. And I thought there was a seed of infatuation there. She's like checking this guy out who'd, for all intents and purposes, had all the red flags, as we've said. But then ultimately turned out to be a nice guy. He left her a note to say, you know, had a good night with you last night and stuff like that. And I thought, oh, is she interested in him? Is she falling in for him in any way, shape or form? I don't know. Do you guys think that when you saw that? Or am I reading too much into it?
I think initially she was taking that picture for safety.
I think so.
And then obviously she has that conversation. And then I think obviously they connect over that really, really rare, unseen documentary. He just so happens to have seen it. And then he just so happens to work in the industry of the film that they're just doing. So I think they really do connect. I think at the beginning she's ignoring a phone call from, I presume, an ex-boyfriend who is kind of harassing her a little bit. So she's obviously a little bit jaded from that. And yeah, I do think that she kind of opens up to him by the end of the night, and they have kind of like one of those like before sunrise kind of like nights chatting. And I think, yeah, she is kind of looking at it like, oh, I can't wait to get back to the Airbnb because Keith will be there and stuff. But this is not, I mean, I did like one of the marketing things, they did do a poster where it made it out to be a rom-com, and I definitely think there is, you know, that element there.
I love it when they do that. Let's head to the scores.
I'm Sam Clements, host of the 90 Minutes or Less Film Festival, another podcast in the Stripped Media family, a podcast that celebrates movies under 90 minutes long. Each episode, I'm joined by a special guest who selects a movie to join our prestigious lineup. Past guests have included fellow Stripped Media family members Martin and Sam from Song by Song, and Kobe from Flixwatcher, and Dave from The Wire Stripped. Search for us now on the app you're currently listening to this podcast, or join us at 90minfilmfest.com.
So welcome to the Flixwatcher scores. All of the scores are out of 5, and you can have decimal places. And we'll start with you, please, Kat, because you picked it with your recommendability.
I think it's got a strong recommendability because it does have that comedy to it. I think you can recommend it to somebody who's not particularly into horror. Like, this was one of those films that even non-horror fans, when they heard about it on like the Metro or whatever, were like, oh, I'm going to go watch this film that's on Disney now. So I think it's like a good sort of like 4.5 maybe in terms of recommendability. And it's quite one of those films that you kind of have to see to believe, because as as you were saying earlier, is like people say, oh, you don't know what this film is. You think, well, no, I think I do. Like I think I know what this film is from what I've seen, but you really don't unless you've seen it. So I think, you just share the love around.
Darren.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 3.5 for recommendability, because I did recommend it to somebody and they looked at me very strangely once they'd seen the movie, because I said, oh, no, it's funny as well. It's a bit scary, but it's funny. And then they came back and they gave me that look, with the look that I see quite a lot when I'm recommending movies. It's like, what are you on? Like, why have you recommended this movie to me? But I think for horror fans, I think the recommendability is much higher. But I think for people who don't normally watch this sort of stuff, I think it's lower, so I've kind of averaged it out. So I think for horror fans, higher, but for mere mortals, it's 3.5.
And as we said, this is about how easy it is to recommend more than your desire, your interest in the film. So it sounds like you're obviously the fact you have recommended it and have been kind of knocked back.
I've been knocked back before. It's been fine. It's not as bad as me recommending Kill List. I got into serious trouble for recommending Kill List to somebody.
I've still not seen that because I think Mark Como just put me off by his description of it. So, Helen, recommendability.
Well, yeah, it's a tricky one. Just say, we've kind of talked about the comedy, but I think the most awful elements of this film is we don't actually see it, but we see through Justin Long's eyes the name of the videotapes that the guy has been making. And it is just the sickest thing in it. And this is a film where there's a freaky hag living in the basement feeding people milk from a saggy freaky breasts, and the worst thing in it is videotapes. So yeah, if you like horror, you will absolutely love this. If you don't like horror, then you probably shouldn't watch this, because there's lots of stuff going on that you probably won't enjoy. But I would give it a 4.5 as well. I think it's really strong, and I think casual horror fans will enjoy it, probably for the humour that's in it as well.
I'm going to go for 4.2 because I think you need to get people to get them out of the comfort zone a bit and say, look, no, I recommend it. Like you did, Darren. Be prepared to be knocked back, and also be prepared for them to say, I didn't expect that, mate. Cheers.
Or you're a sicko. What did you make me watch?
Yeah, that was kind of the one I got.
This is an interesting parallel, actually, but one of my favourite ever movie recommendations was Mulholland Drive. Went to a friend's house at uni, and there's this DVD box just there, and I was like, what's this? And he said, Mulholland Drive. I was like, can I borrow it? And he's like, yeah, but listen, you're not going to understand what goes on in it. Don't worry about it. I was like, what a weird thing to say. And halfway through, I'm like, what? And this is, I think Mulholland Drive is a masterclass in different directions, but this is junior Mulholland Drive, junior Twin Peaks-esque kind of levels of wait, what kind of thing, but it's still interesting when it happens, and I still like that, and that's what pulled me into this film a lot. One of the really dark things was Justin Long's character, and the reason he's been struck off the list is the alleged rape. And then you're like, because it's Justin Long, you're like, and he's when you see him, he's driving in the sunshine, singing a song, all happy and merry, and it's like, no, this did not happen. And then his mate just said, look, just explain what happened, and you're like, explain exactly what happened. Well, you're like, dude, that's rape. You raped her. It might not be violent, super violent, physical to start off with, but it's still not consensual. So
yeah. The bit in the bar's very telling on his character, where you're kind of thinking, well, maybe somebody's going after him because he's famous or he's about to get a show or a film, and then that bit in the bar when he's talking to his friend, you just think, no, this guy's so wrong.
Repeat viewing score. Kat, how many times have you seen this now?
This, according to Letterboxd, is the 4th time I've seen it. So I've seen it twice in the cinema and then twice at home.
Oh, wow. What are the cinematic experiences like?
Well, so my first time, I had to miss it at Fright Fest because Tom Felton was coming on the media wall and I needed to interview him for clicks.
That sounds like such fucking Tom bastard Felton.
Yeah.
Well, it was just really irritating because everybody else got to see Barbarian and came out and said it was really good. So I also saw it for the first time, like Darren did, at Celluloid Screens when it was the secret film. So I think some people had already seen it at Fright Fest, so it was quite interesting to watch it with some of the audience were watching us react to everything that was happening. And then the second time I went to a cinema so that I could be that smug person that knew what was coming. And it is a lot of fun watching it with a room full of people that don't know where it's going to kind of enjoy their thing. So yeah, I guess for me, having seen it 4 times, it's definitely got something. So I'd probably give it like a 3.8.
What? Sorry, the way you build it up then, I thought it was going to be sorry, I mean, it's your score.
Yeah, I don't know, it's short. It's what, like an hour 45. You know, they're always easy to stick on in the background sort of thing. So yeah.
No, I thought you were going to be higher than that, the way Darren.
Yeah, I'm going to go higher. I'm going to go 4.3 for the repeated viewing, because I think that even if you've seen it, then there's a lot of value going back to see where things link together and how they sow the seeds and how they don't, how they're trying to misdirect you. So there's a lot of rewatch value. And very much like Kat, I've seen it twice in the cinema and I've seen it twice at home. First time, again, Celluloid Scream's secret film. Second time, a few days later, I went to the cinema basically so that I could just see people reacting to all the different twists and turns. But I could watch it again. I watched it a couple of days ago, really enjoyed it. And if somebody came over and said, "Oh, do you fancy watching Barbarian this week?" and I'd go, "Yeah, I'd put it on again." Yeah.
So, to you two who went back to the cinema to be a voyeur on other people watching this film, what did you notice?
What got them? Yeah, what was the moments?
Yeah.
The bit where Skarsgård is attacked and gets his head smashed against the side of the cave. Because the fact that he was getting attacked, I mean, I think there was a feeling that something's not quite right, and there's an emphasis on the black space behind Skarsgård, that something's going to come out of it. But then there's that whole thing about, well, maybe it's just trying to misdirect you again. But then there was the shock of the mother leaping out, and then there was the second shock of him getting his head repeatedly smashed against it. Yeah. And and normally people are fairly chatty during bits of the movie, especially when you've had a bit of a jump scare. Everybody's kind of, oh, hardly, it got us. As soon as Skarsgård gets his head smashed against the side of the cave, dead silence. Everybody was like, what is going on?
It's the Justin Long with the tape measure and the opening. Just the audience, they've just had that whole ordeal with seeing Keith get attacked and that, and now it's, can we laugh at this? Like, oh, is it okay? So there's that kind of like nervous laugh, and then towards the end, as he's like fumbling the gun, and he's just like, oh, I can get away if you distract her, and then he throws her over. That got quite a big like reaction, because I think some people are kind of believed that maybe the character was changing. So yeah, I think that was one of the ones that got a big reaction when I went back to see it.
Yeah, Justin Long throwing her over the side of the water tower. Then I do remember somebody in the cinema fairly close to me actually going, "Oh!" when it was like, "Yep, you and me both."
Helen, repeat viewing score. So it's 4.3 for you, Darren, was it?
It was, yes.
So I've seen this twice. Yeah, it's an hour 43, so like a super, super short one. And enough time had elapsed between the first watch and watching it again that I could remember some bits, but not everything. I was like, how do we get to Justin Long? And then I was like, oh yeah, that's how we get to Justin Long.
It just comes along.
Would I watch it again? Probably. I would like to have seen it in the cinema. I am sad that I missed it in that, but you never know. I could see it again in the cinema. So I'm going to give it 3.5.
Was this like one of the earlier outings post-pandemic?
Possibly, or it might just be...
Well, you're a film festival, so it wasn't too long after.
Yeah, I think it's more that certain horror films don't come to my local. Horror gets a really, really short run. Right. And I might have only been on at the Odeon, which isn't my nearest. It's just not as close.
I will definitely watch it again. I don't think I'll watch it again after that. So I'm going to go for a 3.8, because I think I definitely need to watch it again. But yeah. Small screen score, Kat. We've talked about you two guys watching the cinema, so it'll be interesting to see what you guys say. Yeah, small screen score.
It holds up. It's fun to see, particularly with people that haven't seen it before, but equally you can invite your mates around who haven't seen it and, watch that from your sofa. It's some of the sound design is quite fun in a theatre, but I don't think you miss that too much. And particularly like when I rewatched it for this recording, I had my headphones on and it was on the laptop, so you get that experience still. So I think it's it's not a big flashy film that you need the big screen to see. So I'm going to go with a 4.2 maybe.
Well, which one do you want?
Let's go with 4.2. I feel bad for the repeat score being a bit lower. Let's bring it back around. But yeah, I think horror does well in the cinema, and then it also does well on the small screen. It's one of those genres that really translates because, you know, you can draw the curtains, you can turn all the lights off, and you can get just as scared as at the cinema.
Darren?
I'm going to give it a 4 because visually it's nice, but I don't think it loses a huge amount if you have it on a smaller screen. And as Kat says, you can always make the room dark and you can scare yourself in your living room as much as you can scare yourself in a cinema. And there is that rewatch value. If you bring people round who haven't seen it before, then you get to enjoy their reactions as much as you did in the cinema. So I think that there's not huge widescreen compositions that you would think, oh, I'm missing so much by watching it on the television. It's not that sort of movie. It's really well shot. It looks fantastic, but I don't think you lose an awful lot if you watch it on a smaller screen.
I think it might be scarier at home, particularly if you have a basement, because, you know, you're then going to hit stop and then you've got to walk past that basement door.
I would never buy a house with a basement. I'm going to give it 4 because I would like to have seen this at the cinema, even though I think it's fine at home. And I'll be keeping my eye on the Prince Charles Cinema to see if it's around at Halloween time.
I'm going to go a bit lower than you guys because I think I don't get drawn to horror films that much, but if I do watch them, I try and watch them in the cinema because I do like that collective experience. And when I watched The Invisible Man, which is the last film I saw before the pandemic, that was such a great thing to watch in the cinema with people. Even though it wasn't that scary, but it was still like, fuck, it's bits. And most recently watching Bring Her Back in the cinema, when I was recoiling and like tossing and turning in my chair, I could see other people doing the same. And it's such a unique, distinctive experience that. So yes, 3.8 because I think it'd be good in cinema. But there's some really cool shots, like when Justin Long was at the end of the corridor, the torches, I can't remember if he's dropped the torch or his torch is broken, but you can kind of see the mother, you can just see the outline of the mother character kind of coming close and then pulling away. And I was just like, that's just really well. That was nice. I was like, well done. Well done. Engagement score. Kat, well, you checked out the driving license and were able to determine that his date of birth was wrong. So you were pretty engaged.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I prefer the first act to what comes later. I think it's just the whole setup of, you know, just this woman doing everything to a degree right. I mean, should she have stayed with the man she didn't know? Probably not. But the alternative was to sleep in a car on the street, which is, you know, full of dilapidated, full of dilapidated houses. I mean, even the next day when she's having her interview and she kind of tells the woman where she's staying, she's like, what? Where? And she's like, oh, no, it's fine. I've got a roommate and stuff. And this director lady is like, oh my God, like she's going to be dead. And I mean, you know, she's not far wrong.
She's just like, well, she's not getting a job.
Yeah, exactly. Well, waste time giving her the job. She ain't going to be here. But yeah, I think the first half for me is something that I will watch sort of time and time again. But as we get to Justin Long, as fun as some of his moments are, it does lose a bit on a repeated viewing for me. So I think in terms of engagement, I'm going to go for like a 3.7.
Darren?
Engagement, I'm going to go slightly higher because I'm going to go 4.1. Because I think it is still quite engaging. You've no idea where it's going in the first 40 minutes. And then, yeah, I agree with Kat. The Justin Long stuff kind of takes you out a little bit because it slows the pace down and it takes the story in a different direction. But as soon as they get into the basement and as soon as all the stuff with the mother and Frank kicks in, and even the bit at the end where they're trying to escape and they're talking to the homeless guy. I mean, the bit where the guy said, oh, you know, she's not going to come here. I've lived here 15 years and she's not. And then you just know she's going to be behind him. So it's that sort of stuff that it's fun all the way through, even though you're kind of watching it through your fingers as well. So I think it's quite an engaging movie. And even the little flat spots don't really matter that much because you suspect that something either hilarious or awful or both is coming around the corner. It's usually true.
Helen?
Yeah, that poor homeless guy just wanting to help out at the end.
And when she goes back to the house.
Yeah.
It was quite aggressive in the way he was saying. Yeah. I was like, there's better ways to tell her not to go in there. Not just running at her, banging on the door. Was that the same person?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, having your arm ripped off and then having your body beaten with your own arm is somewhat unnecessary. That's pretty dark. You know what, fuck it. I'm going to give it a 5, especially for the first watch. I did not know what's going on and was completely with it until the very end.
5, okay. I'm going to go for 4.6. I think, you need to be, paying attention. because you've no idea where it's going to go. No idea. I didn't know Justin Long was coming along. I think someone in the review said there's like a cameo which you need to pay attention to, but that wasn't a cameo with Justin Long. That was like a whole different story arc.
Character, yeah.
Yeah, and so when that happens, and then you're like, well, is he going to go into the basement? Yeah. How is he going to meet his demise? You wasn't expecting to see Tess again. That was great. And then things like pulling the baby bottle down through the cage. So there's just stuff at every 5 minutes. There's like, okay, what? Wait, what? What? And yeah, like as soon as that homeless guy said she's not been here in 15 years, I was like, well, you just signed your death warrant there. And yep, we did. Points. I've gone 4.6. So we have an overall score of 4.03125.
Yes,
yeah.
good.
Yeah, I thought we'd be quite high going into this. So, Darren, Kat, can you tell everyone where we can find you guys online and say goodbye to listeners?
Yeah, sure. So I am at Gizmo Shikari on Letterboxd and Instagram.
Gizmo Shikari?
Yes, Gizmo Shikari, yes. So I have, one of my cats is called Ratchet Shikari and one of them is called Gizmo Bauer. I couldn't choose a favourite child, so I merged them both together. But yeah, so I'm Gizmo Shikari on Letterboxd and Instagram and just cathughes.bsky.social on Blue Sky.
Helen's also a cat person. Who are you, Darren?
I am at Darren_Gaskell on Instagram. I'm darrengaskell.bsky.social on Blue Sky. I am on X if you want to find me there. I'm not on X an awful lot, but I am at Darren_Gaskell on there. Weirdly enough, I don't have a Letterboxd account. So if you want to read my reviews, you're going to have to go to Love, Horror or Warp Perspective. I may relent and get a Letterboxd account in the future, but at the moment, all of my opinions elsewhere.
Making it hard for people. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much for bringing Barbarian, and well, yeah, see you next time.
Thanks very much
for coming on.
Bye.
Bye.
Right.
Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're at FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty, mighty tunes and Rockwood Audio's editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell them Flixwatcher sent you.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.